Greetings, nerds. This is CNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. How are you doing this evening?
I am doing fine, but I still disagree. A retweet is not a tweet, okay? It's a retweet of someone else's tweet. How is that me tweeting something?
That is because you're actually taking action of retweeting something. So you're tweeting something from your account instead of just passively scrolling.
I am just supporting others, Will. Supporting others.
So you tweeted.
But I didn't want to.
Retweet is supporting someone else.
Okay. All right. I'm glad we have a third member of the crew tonight, which we do. We have a lovely follower who's been tweeting. So, we decided to invite him on. So everyone, Jeff Lewis is with us. Welcome, Jeff.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here. And also, if you go to your Twitter timeline, retweets do kind of appear underneath your tweets. So
I don't
I think that Twitter actually does count a retweet as one of your official tweets.
It just, welcome people, and when they take Will's side.
Yeah. That's the risk you run.
But it just, it feels like plagiarism, because it was not my words. I am just I am supporting someone else's words.
Fair enough. Well, I don't count a retweet necessarily as you, even though in this context you were supporting their work.
Right.
Sometimes, but at the same time, I don't automatically account someone retweeting something meaning that they endorsed it. It may just mean that this is interesting, but it may be like a dumpster fire that they're retweeting. We've had that the last many years until someone's account was finally deleted, but I won't go there.
Oh my god. All right. Well, we have a lot to cover tonight, and because of that, we're choosing not to cover Oscar nominations.
Yeah.
Which I'm laughing at because I think a lot of us know that I'm not taking any awards shows seriously right now because they're so pushed back in the year. It's mind-blowing to me. But Oscar nominations happened. People are nominated. Good luck. Will.
Yeah.
You and Jeff are going to start us off with talking Black Lightning, right?
Yeah. Let's start off with Black Lightning tonight. And this season has been, for the final season, it's been overall pretty good. And I will say this episode, it is the same. Of course, at the end of last week, we get the recasting of Jennifer, and just like we just saw WandaVision, people are like, "What's going on?" But Jeff, what were your thoughts as far as our new Jen?
One of the things that kind of stuck out to me, when the episode started, is that I'm not sure if you know this, well, the title of this episode was "The Book of Rent, Chapter 2, Theseus' Ship."
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like Black Lightning was taking the same take on Theseus that we saw in WandaVision,
yep,
with the original Vision and the White Vision.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure that the Black Lightning writers and the WandaVision writers aren't comparing notes, but it's kind of ironic how they both kind of hit on that same theme. And let's see, but yeah, with the new Gen, I think it does kind of hit on the whole ideal of identity and what makes us who we are. I think even it's kind of that plays into as well with kind of who Jefferson is as a superhero, and it's kind of how he tried to hide that part of his identity, or even kind of tried to act like it wasn't there, but Freeland needs him, and.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a real good pickup on the whole theme from this season as far as with Jeff and really understanding why he needs to be Black Lightning. And really, one of the things they really dove into this episode, again, really grounded in that this week I thought, using the real world example of Breonna Taylor, actually worked in this episode, unlike the George Floyd one that they did last week. Because and basically to set it up, so Jeff has decided, okay, I do need to be the hero. I do need to go back and protect Black Lightning. He had gotten some information from Detective Shakur about the police going after metas and also stepping up their enforcement in the city. And so we get a scenario where you have 3 white cops doing no-knock searches, which even Detective Shakur was like, whoa, this is bad stuff. But the new police chief wanted to do that, and then we have the situation where that they do the no-knock, and we have the police come in, and then, of course, the events unfold, and it's a very, like I said, it's truly a rip from the headlines type of scenario. But they dial it back, and Jeff comes in and saves, basically keeps that event from happening. And it really shows, again, how important, not only for fighting crime, but also just keeping people in authority in check as a superhero. So I don't know, any thoughts on how that sort of played out?
I mean, that definitely for me, like, had, like, some Luke Cage vibes, in terms of just kind of, like, how Luke Cage was kind of, like, the protector, like, of Harlem and the black neighborhoods, and then even, just kind of, like, when the police, like, use their force, like, in an unjust manner, I mean, like, it's easy for me to, like, view, like, these Arrowverse shows as escapism, but then it's kind of, like, in a sense, like, it's, like, a really, very real, like, escapism, like, when you see kind of, like, these atrocities happening, like, with the no-knock warrants and things like that, it's kind of, like, yeah, I mean, it would be great if, like, there was a Luke Cage or there was a Black Lightning, or, like, just kind of, like, a way to, like, a way to not have, like, these Breonna Taylor incidents.
Yeah. I mean, I really, like I said, I thought it worked a whole lot better this week instead of the sort of cringeworthy moment they had with with Shakur and Lala's henchman. Speaking of Lala, so Lala got Han Solo'd.
I had the same thought too. I mean, it's kind of I'm gonna blank on the name of the metahuman that put Lala inside of the cement, but I'm thinking, like, haven't you seen, like, Star Wars before? I mean, like, at some point, like, something's gonna happen to, like, break Lala out of the cement, like, a la Harrison Ford, I mean, like, sure, you can say, like, in theory that, like, he's gonna die, like, over and over again, but like, we know, like, how these shows play out. But yeah, it did very much, like, play back to Star Wars.
Yeah. I mean, it also just, with Destiny and Lala and basically, part of the detective work here was trying to figure out who was the meta who basically killed the mayor, because they, one of the things that happened pre-Jen going up in the ionosphere to get killed, and where she died and was reconstituted, was the police force pinning several incidences, on her, and so the figuring out what was going on there, and then Jeff, like, asking Lynn to test his theory out and trying to figure out what these meta properties were, by injecting herself after he's been railing on her about being a junkie all this time, and now she's trying to be in recovery, and then he's asking her to, basically do that again. It just, just when you think their relationship is finally getting back in a good place, one of them, will do something like this to take things in a different direction.
Right. Yeah. I mean, well, that's kind of like the age-old debate of, like, do the ends ever justify the means? Even going back to Arrow, like, season 1, it's kind of like, does Oliver's killing like justify like his way of like stopping bad guys, and then and like even like what we see with like, Jefferson and Lynn, like does 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 Lynn touching the math formula on herself like like it's kind of is there really justification for that and 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 so yeah, I mean like from Jefferson's point of view, like yes, like the ends justify the means, but from Lynn's point of view, like they don't, and it's kind of, that seems like always be like the tension, and it and and it's like from us like as a viewer, like it's like Lynn's point of view of like no, like the ends don't just justify the means makes sense, but but um but I mean like being pragmatic, I mean like yeah, like you can definitely see like Jefferson's point of view as well, so.
Yeah, I thought that pull with them was really, it gets into that whole, the point you made earlier about, really getting into identity and really what makes us heroes, what makes us the sum of our parts, and speaking of identity, with Jen's new, at least physical appearance, even though we learned that it is indeed our old Jen, she just looks differently because when she was reconstituted in the machine, her DNA got just resequenced to be taller and all. But one of the things I was wondering about from this season was her going to social media and what was going to be the fallout of that. And it turns out, I thought it was going to be a negative thing, but it turns out they ended up using it as a positive, showing how Jen had encouraged so many people in the community, and also, carrying on that legacy that Jefferson started, as far as being a beacon for the community. Jen's doing that now too, and seeing all those videos and TikToks of all the young women and women of color seeing Jen as a hero and encouraging her, and the one girl who was like, I was bullied and I didn't have nowhere to turn, but then I saw Jen and it was such an inspiration. I really thought that was a good way that they have utilized her, going to social media to tell her own story, even though initially she and TC did it to try to clear her name.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah, and then even to that point, like in season 1 of Black Lightning, like we see that like Black Lightning disappeared for a long time. Like you have to wonder like if Jefferson would have had like that positive feedback from social media, like would Black Lightning not have disappeared from the community for so long too?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. Yeah, and then speaking because of that void, that with Jefferson being gone, we see Tobias, have the first rise that we saw from the first season, and now with this season we see Tobias maneuvering the local politics and the gangs to basically position himself to run for mayor.
So Will, have you read a lot of the Superman comics?
I have not. I've read some, yeah.
Right, yeah, right, yeah. I know, like there's a Superman storyline where Lex Luthor runs for president. And I think he even becomes president. Like I'm not super familiar with that, but it'd be interesting. Like if this wasn't Black Lightning's last season, just kind of like how far they could go with the whole like Tobias as mayor storyline, and even just kind of like having that mayor Lex Luthor as president as well too.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely something that's definitely look into, and especially given that we have the Painkiller spinoff coming up. I guess the backdoor pilot, whenever the show returns in April, we will maybe we'll see that as part of the spinoff if with Painkiller. So, any last thoughts about Black Lightning before we move to Lois, Superman and Lois?
I'm not sure if you had a similar thought when Jen was reconstituted, but it's kind of like before, and this is so Jen, it's kind of like her new form.
Mhm.
Like, add the thought of like, would Jen know that like this new form was the same as her old form, or even kind of like, would this be like some kind of like multiverse like switcheroo where Jen's like, oh yeah, that's me, like that's how I've always been, like why you guys acting so weird, like
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought about that, and especially I was thinking in Crisis, because I know with I guess with the Crisis episode where Jen did see multiverse versions of herself.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, given that she discovered the multiverse before, maybe she, well, I mean, I guess in the episode when she did look at herself in the mirror, she did. Let's see, did she not? She did react to it.
Right. Yes, you did.
So, but I'm sure that might be something they'll continue to pick up on throughout the remaining run of the series, and maybe she may even, maybe with being recast, she may end up showing up in the Painkiller series as well. So
right.
Yeah,
she looked at herself in the mirror.
She did.
Is she the Mirrorverse? Did she get pulled in to the Mirrorverse?
No,
she's not one of Mother's, or I don't know what Mother called her dominions, or
yeah, the Mirrorverse-ites. I don't know,
her children.
Yeah.
Okay, I know we want to. I mean, the rundown says next to talk about Lois and Superman, but let's just get Flash out of the way.
Let's get it out of the way.
Their season finale, Will.
It was. It was. The Flash.
That as soon as that clicked in my mind, that, oh my god, this was going to be the season finale. Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is kind of a Wonder Woman 84 spoiler, so I'm not sure if I'm allowed to go up on this territory.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking also, I mean, like, Wonder Woman 84 came out almost 3 months ago, so it's not that big of a spoiler. But it's kind of like how in like the big bad fight at the end against Maxwell Lord, it's like Diana doesn't win by like a big fight, but she wins by a speech. It's like, in a sense, like the Flash and I was the same way. Like, it's like it wasn't like super speed or anything that took down Mirror Master, but the speech, and it's kind of like, can't we do something other than a speech to beat the big bad?
Right.
Yeah, I thought Care Bears, but anyway.
No, that's a really good point. I mean, I've kind of blacked out Wonder Woman 1984 from my mind, but no, now that you brought it up, there is some parallels to that. It's fascinating to watch these shows right now, because you're seeing all of the different approaches to having their shooting get shut down and delayed and postponed, and how the different approaches to the actual storytelling and what was previously shot and trying to make things right. And none of these shows are perfect, doing it perfectly. But the Flash I should expect these things. I mean, last week we were talking about how it should not be a surprise when a Wells dies and then magically reappears. And yet, I'm still shocked that they return to that well every season.
Mm-hmm. No pun intended, right?
No pun. No, I've never used that pun before, and I'm going to use it again.
Something y'all mentioned about the Flash episode last week, which kind of like how there's no tension, and like in my mind, like add this thought of like, it'd be great like if there was like some kind of tension, like in terms of like, yes, these shows are formulaic, like yes, we not like Camilla and Singh will be rescued, but it's kind of like, what if they couldn't have rescued like Camilla and Singh? Like I was playing out in my mind like this whole like scenario where like Camilla dies in the multiverse, and like and like Cisco's always kind of been like almost like being like more and more like phased out. So it's kind of like, what if like this is like you saw that like snaps for Cisco and he turns dark, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And just because, I mean, like, we rarely ever see these shows take a big risk like that, you know?
Yeah.
And,
because they had their perfect chance with Caitlin and Killer Frost.
Mm-hmm.
And they toyed with it. I guess they played around with it a little bit in the third season, but even then they just brought her back. So it's just like, you're right, there is a formula. And really watching all four of these shows this week, you know.
Say it.
Yeah. This was, I mean, this one was actually watched Superman and Lois first before I watched The Flash because I it's just kind of like, I kind of knew what was going to happen. And because it's a very well-worn formula, and it really hurts me to say that because again, it was one of my ride or die shows, but here lately it's it is showing its age, and even I was even thinking when Barry's like, we've been fighting these battles for 7 years. I'm like, yeah, 7 years, and we need to come up with some new tricks, y'all.
Same battle. The sad thing is that there was a time, I kept thinking about this watching The Flash, which it's funny, Will, because I did the exact opposite. I watched The Flash first and then Superman and Lois. But there was a time when I would have actually been very impressed and fascinated by actually seeing this version of Harrison Wells. And yet the way it was delivered and packaged, I felt nothing. And yes, we know I'm dead inside. But still, I mean, even the moments with Cisco at the end, I was just like, there was so much tension in that first season and that relationship and that dynamic. And they were trying to get back to that, but it's been so far removed that I really didn't. I was just like, all right, let's get going, choppity chop, do a weird cliffhanger, which they did, and I don't understand the cliffhanger. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I have no idea what that meant.
So this the cliffhanger. Two things. I agree with you about the Wells point with Cisco. It felt totally forced to me as well. Because there was we never had any beyond flashbacks, and we never really got any relationship with this version of the original Harrison Wells. So to force a goodbye between Cisco and this version of Harrison, it felt forced, and just like I think even the creative team was like, let's just get season 6B out of the way so we can just start fresh with season 7, and which with the cliffhanger, I read where there's been some speculation, and then when I saw it, it's one of the things that they picked up from some of the recent run of the comic that was written recently by Joshua Williamson, and it was Force Wars. And so this was a byproduct in the comic of Barry Allen and Wally West having a big showdown, and Wally breaks through. He is one of the speedsters who can go to the Speed Force and return, and in doing so, unleash a bunch of three other forces in the comic continuity. The Sage Force, the Strength Force, and the Still Force, the Still Force was a counterbalance to the Speed Force. So I think I read, I don't know if it was Eric Wallace himself or maybe it was somewhere else I read online. They're going to pick up the whole Force Wars story adapted to the 7th season. So that's what those four, when the lightning thing shot up and Harrison looked over like he knew something was going on, that's what that was.
Okay. Followed that completely, Will. I completely understand what's going to happen, and I'm very excited about it. Anything else about the Flash? I mean, there was Ralph and Sue.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was just way. The first one was like, I thought they were like having a little bit of fun with at the expense of Hartley Sawyer. I couldn't help but think that when I saw how this Gormby looked. I mean, I was just like, okay. And then at the finale, at the end of the episode, I was just like, okay, yeah, they are out of money. So they're going to use retread Daft Punk look on Ralph here. But yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm glad that they, like I said, they got the 6B done, and let's move on let's go to true season 7.
Mm-hmm.
True season 7, which will feature Force Wars, apparently.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Star Wars.
Yep.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk some Lois and Superman, because we already know Will thinks that this was probably one of the better episodes this week in the CW lineup. I have to agree, it's a solid episode. Jeff, what are your thoughts on Lois and Superman? I mean, not just this episode, but the season of episodes so far.
I feel like they're setting up a lot right now. So it's kind of like, for example, like it seemed like in the first 2 episodes that set up the Lex Luthor character, and then like tonight we didn't see Lex Luthor at all. But obviously it's not the Lex Luthor that we're used to. It seems like an alternate like Lex Luthor from another universe. And then also, like, last week, I was really intrigued by the bad guy who was just as strong as Superman. And I was hoping that, like, we get, like, more of that, because, like, I think a common problem with the character like Superman is that, like, Superman can easily overpower most foes, so it's rare that, like, you get a character who can go toe-to-toe with Superman.
Right.
So I was kind of disappointed that we didn't get more of that. And one of my hopes for the series is that we get a smart Superman, just because I mean, like, because Superman is so powerful, like it's almost like sometimes, like, he doesn't think, or like he prolongs fights when he doesn't need to. It's like, for example, the fight with Thaddeus Kilgrave. Like, it's like when the ELT device went off and, like, he heard his voice from doubles, he's like, oh yeah, I can easily beat this guy. Like, why am I just kind of going around with him, you know?
That's the Supergirl Superman.
No, I was just gonna say, I think you raise an interesting point about Superman. Like, he can easily overpower the villains, and what I'm noticing and what they're doing really well in this show is utilizing that point that we're not just talking about Superman or Clark Kent. We're talking about a father. Mm-hmm. And how do you balance that? How do you balance when your kids are in trouble versus saving other people? Mm-hmm. Or allowing a villain to escape. And I think that this was just kind of a almost a prequel-ish episode to really what they're going to get at this season, and really stretch that bounds of what is fatherhood and protection and priorities. Mm-hmm. Which I mean, I totally agree with your point. It's like, why didn't you just do that earlier? But maybe it was some sort of flight and, what is that called? Fight or flight response, where it's like, oh, well, I'm being overpowered, and then my kids are in trouble. Oh yeah, I have plenty of chicks. But what is 7734? Like, that's an Easter egg, right?
Yeah, that was the Easter egg from way back in the pilot, with Captain Luthor.
What is
that?
It?
Was his.
Like,
that was like his dog. I think that was like. So if you recall in the pilot, or maybe it was the second episode, we flash to Captain Luthor's world, and we have the evil Superman destroying all the armies.
Right.
And so, if I recall, I think they were a task force that was set up to take on this evil Superman, and I want to say that was like his dog tags.
Right. Yeah. You have to. Yeah.
That
right. Yeah.
For war. So.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's what Lex Luthor gave to gave to the Sam Lane character. Like.
Yeah.
After the last episode or 2 episodes ago, like. when you got him away for a one-on-one conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And does this play out in the comic books at all? Is this?
I think the Captain Luthor character is the creation original to this show.
Okay. And
yeah,
because for some reason I was thinking that it was some sort of DC storyline that I've never heard about before. But if it's original, that's hats off to them. That's brave.
Yeah.
Don't see that in most of these shows.
But there was I think Dreamer was an original character adapted. Yeah, I think so. That they adapted to that because of that they have her now in the comic. But yeah, I think I think that the contingency protocol is, I think General Lane is always, and they really picked up this theme, I think, also from Man of Steel, with Christopher Maloney's general character in that film, where there's always this risk. We always have to keep Superman in check.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And so I think they're picking up on that theme in this show as well with General Lane, and with this contingency plan, and he and Captain Luthor having clearly understanding what happened on his world. They're Lane is also thinking that, especially when you see this tension that was playing out really heavily in this episode with, one, the meddling grandparent, which any parent is very familiar with that. That's definitely a dynamic that comes into play for sure. But also, and I like the way, and I think that's one of the things I like about this series too, and maybe that's why it's so relatable to me being a parent, is seeing some of the things that, yes, you have this character who has so many responsibilities, as you noted, Sarah, and how they're really playing into that tension of, do I save the world, or do deal with my kids, deal with my relationship with my wife, and then having to deal with those things. So, and I brought that up before when we talked about this show. So, with Lane and the things that he was saying, and sometimes giving a side eye to Clark, Superman, he definitely sees this as an opportunity to, if Clark ever went rogue, we need to have a contingency plan.
Yeah. What are some of your other thoughts, you guys, about Lois and Superman? What about the Morgan Edgefield front?
So I like, Jeff, you go first.
I mean, Morgan Eggs, he definitely seems smarter. I shouldn't say smarter, but he definitely knows more than we know. Especially when it comes to the ex-kryptonite, and it seems like he and yeah, I mean, just like Lois, I don't trust him, and I mean, we saw in this episode, how the ex-kryptonite can give people meta powers. So it almost seems like he has some kind of plan to create some kind of army, and the power that he can have by creating this army, it definitely seems like the kind of power that corrupts. And yeah, I mean, I don't trust him. I don't like him, and
he seems to like Lana.
and so yeah, I mean, I just find it interesting that so many people in Smallville are gullible and don't see right through them like Lois does, or maybe they're just desperate and they believe his promises without thinking hey, this all seems too good to be true.
Yeah, I think that's why he goes after the small towns. I mean, it is that desperation. It's we want more or better than we have in the past or currently have. So if somebody is telling us that they can do that, They don't care necessarily the means as long as it happens. Now, when it comes up in their face, that's a different thing. But I also think Lois just has seen it happen before to other towns, so that's why she's more able to see through him than than others who are not as familiar with that information or what has happened at those other places. And if they are, they're just ignoring that because they're like, yeah, but this time it'll be different because we have to hope that this can help save this town that we love so much and have invested so much time in.
Yeah. I think he definitely plays into that. And also it was interesting whenever he was, as you noted, he was a little bit more than just professionally interested in Lana, it seemed. And also seeing how Lana's husband was all about Edge, and it was eliminated whenever Lois and Lana had Girls Night Out, and just talking about their family and relationships and their life, how it's from the outside it looks like Lana and her husband's life is pretty good and stuff, but actually things aren't so well. And then of course Lois also feeling neglected too, because maybe she even calls Clark out on it. It's like, dude, I'm feeling a little left out here. So it was again one of those things that even it's a CW and stuff, but it wasn't like typical CW melodrama. It seemed like how real people would interact as far as dealing with their their particular situation.
Yep. I like how they've really Morgan is definitely Lois's villain. Like I know that at the end of this episode with the ex-Kryptonian or Kryptonite reveal, you can see where this is going to collide with Superman, but I do like how so far they've really isolated, like, this is her person that she wants to take down with her skills. So, and I appreciate that. I think that was a smart move because you don't want Superman to overshadow Lois. So.
Yeah, and also, I like that. I'm glad you brought that up, especially with her, with Edge trying to intimidate her through the lawsuits, and especially the publisher of the little Smallville newspaper. And Lois is just like, don't even come over with
that. Any other thoughts before we jump into Batwoman?
No, like I said, I think I'm really, really enjoying the show, and I know we've got, I think, one more episode before they go on hiatus because of COVID, so it would be interesting to see, like to your point earlier, Sarah, about how COVID impacts these shows and their production, given that this probably was not intended to be a mid-season hiatus.
Just like echo what Will said, like, I like how it's not like the typical like CW melodrama. And in terms of like the Kent family, like it's already like out in the open that like Clark is Superman. Like one of the annoying things about like it's kind of like the times when like Felicity like, oh Oliver, you can't keep on like like be keeping these secrets, or it's kind of like within like the boys and Lois and Clark, like there aren't any secrets, and it's almost kind of like real life family drama.
Yeah, no, I agree. In the fact that Lois's father even knows. Like, I like that twist on it too. Like, this is a family secret. And that's really what they're exploring, is how that secret affects the family members. And now there's more than one secret because we also have Jordan to worry about. But don't worry, Jordan will always have his third parent called Jonathan.
Yeah. But also even with that, the third parent, but instead of it and it may go into this direction, but so far I like the direction that they are having, where the brothers are looking out for each other and not becoming this jealousy thing because one has powers and one doesn't.
Oh, it's not going to be because of the powers. It's going to be because of the girl.
Okay, but, little fires everywhere.
Yeah, I speaking about pacing in these shows, this week's episode about it, like, talking about the Flash never ceases to amaze me with, like, repetition of, like, repeating the same tricks. When is CW gonna figure out how to schedule things? Because this episode should have aired immediately after the previous one. It was part 2. It wasn't a standalone episode. It wasn't a one-off. It was seriously a part 2, and it just bothered me so much throughout the entire thing, because I'm just like, there should have not been a week break between these 2 episodes. And I'm going to call out the editors, because I think that this was very sloppily edited.
Yeah.
I really didn't like it. But those are my thoughts.
Jeff, what are your thoughts on this week's Batwoman? Because I
mean, like, I definitely like went into the episode from did I miss something, or like it. I mean, it's kind of like Alice is talking to the other woman from Goriana, but it seemed like there's almost kind of like a scene like missing between the end of last week's episode and this week's episode, and that's definitely like frustrating about it. But then also, like, going back to like what we're saying about like the Flash and how these Arrowverse shows have their formula. I think it'll be interesting to see how Batwoman deviates from the formula, just because, like, as the viewer, like, if we didn't know like what we know, like, it almost seems like they're trying to like set something up for Kate to be found on Coriana, and but because it seems like Ruby Rose most likely won't be back, I'm hoping that like they take like a really big risk or do something that really surprises us as the viewer, that pays off, and like everyone gets to Coriana and they're like where's Kate, and like they have like something shocking, instead of something formulaic.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, because so far this season it's been very formulaic. Mm-hmm. And it gets worse with every episode. It's very much like Ryan's Kryptonian infection.
We know it's gonna be healed.
Continues, and ever since, and I love blaming things on you, so I'm just gonna say it. Ever since you said the problem is Alice, I cannot unsee it.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart, because Alice was arguably one of the best parts of last season. Mm-hmm. And this season, she is seriously dead weight. And I'm just like, stop posting this, especially because they're on this whole redemption arc, which she's been in love before, so we should have sympathy.
This week's Alice, there are so many things that they just really rub me the wrong way about how with this relationship with Sophia and Alice, and Sophia creating Alice. I mean, one of the things that I thought was just so dynamic about that character to begin with was, you go to all the lengths of setting up the backstory of her, getting lost, and then of course being held captive with Mouse and his family and all those kind of things, and then we get to this. We get to the story this week, and we find out, Sophia wanted Alice, and
Ocean had her. Like, it was a weird triangle that nobody cares about.
Yeah. Yes. And it was just like, and then, and Tatiana just wind her up and let her go. I mean, it was just a lot of exposition.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, Sarah, about the editing choices, the way it took me I had to stop and start this episode because when I first tried to watch it, I just like, okay, I can't do this. I mean, I had to, because I was like, I was going to be mad. I was going to be pissed off about how this episode unfolded. And at least when I watched it, I see where they were trying to go. And I mean, I with all the various threads, I mean, for example, with Catherine Hamilton also being an enemy of Sophia and the Desert Rose arc, trying to replicate that. I see where they're going, and there are a lot of interesting threads, but it's just they took probably their strongest character to date in Alice and neutered her as far as with this backstory that they created this week.
Yeah, she was already coming into the season kind of at a disadvantage, like one hand behind her back, because part of the reason why Alice's character works so well is because you have that sister dynamic between her and Kate. This season, with Kate not being around, it's the dynamic part of her is missing. Like, there really shouldn't be anyone else to redeem her other than her sister. I mean, not even her father, really, which may have been the better choice to go with. Like, focus more on Jacob and Alice, as opposed to this whole weird Sophia and Ocean. Oh my God. Like, Dead Fate. It's very attractive, but still, come on, guys. Like, super villains should not have love interests. That's so weird to me. It just doesn't make sense. And Sophia, I don't know. I could barely. I don't even think I can say I truly watched this episode. It was just playing in the background, and I was just doing other things. Like,
which is so bad because. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I mean, like, do you think that Alice will survive till the end of the season? Just because, I mean, like, it seems like Alice is no longer the big bad, and like with Kate gone, like, how much more can they really do with her story?
Right.
Yeah.
I think she will, because the Kane aspect is still important, and I think that I think though she should be written out of the show beyond this season. I think that there is potential for Mary and Jacob to get some kind of, and even Sophie, because all of them lost Kate, so they need to figure out a way to move past that. And I think either locking Alice up or taking care of Alice is one way to kind of resolve any issues with Kate's sudden disappearance or death.
Mm-hmm. And we also need Julia Payworth to resolve Kate's death too. Speaking of all the characters on the show, and
yeah, I forgot about her.
Yeah, I think we all did.
Yeah,
even the
writers. She got shot, and then we haven't seen her again.
Yeah, but like I said, it's the show had started off with such great promise, and I just feel like they just hit a kind of a creative rut at this point, with a lot of story choices that they have created, and we talked about this before, Sarah. Like, for example, Sophie, she finally was starting to get some things to do, and then this week she's back to just being the crow, Jacob's sounding board with the crows, and Jacob is the same, basically instead of the not knowing the story that he had with Kate, now it's just with Mary. So it's just switching out parts with some of these characters, and I think in order for the show to really grow, I know where Caroline was going with not wanting to, kill off LGBTQ character. I get that. But at the same time, I think they're going to have to just finally have, I think for just things to really grow to the next level, they're just going to have to resolve to say, we're not necessarily kill Kate off, but end the mystery like they did with Bruce. They're just gone. It's always going to kind of be out there, but now Ryan is fully Batwoman, and we really shape a mythos around her.
Yeah, just don't forget they did bring back Bruce at the end of last season.
A Bruce.
A Bruce. A version of Bruce.
Yeah.
Still. Yeah.
Tommy,
No,
yeah.
I agree. I think the best, wrap up the Sophia stuff and then go all in on Black Mask, because Black Mask is going to be Ryan's supervillain.
Mm-hmm.
So we need more. We need to pick up that storyline and get things going. And that's the thing. As much as I hate this episode, and I'm not really liking the choices that are being made, I still have trust that the ship is going to get back on track, just because of everything that they did during the first season.
Yeah. One of the redeeming parts of this episode that I'm kind of interested to see where they go with this is the whole Catherine Hamilton Sophia rivalry, just because it seems like that definitely has potential to play out in some interesting ways storyline wise.
Yeah, I agree. I liked the callback to Catherine Hamilton. I think it's an interesting choice considering she's dead and has been dead, but she still seems to have played such an integral part in what is currently happening. It's interesting. It just makes me love that episode from the first season even more. Mm-hmm. And I also liked the callback they had to that iconic scene where Kate and Alice are on opposite sides of the door when Alice is being held captive. Because that was an iconic moment from the first season when they relived that whole situation.
Yeah, definitely.
So you're right. The callbacks were nice.
Yeah.
All the new stuff is crap.
Yeah. Well, and Ryan, with the kryptonite poisoning and the whole Angelique, moment, and also Ryan revealing herself to Alice. That was the other thing that really, I was like, really? Y'all did this already?
I even forgot that happened.
Yeah, I just thought about it when we were talking. I was like, because really, I mean, there was just this side story and distractions with Alice and Sophia and all that stuff. But Ryan did have with the kryptonite poison, the hallucinations, and really getting back to her motivations for why she wanted to be a vigilante to begin with. And whenever they play Ryan and Alice off of each other, that's the kind of thing that keeps me engaged with Alice as a character, because again, it really gets to the mayhem that she and the Wonderland gang created in Gotham.
Yeah.
But but when we get into then they just cut all that out they undercut all that with this whole Sophia being the one who created Alice, and I'm just like, no, okay. But but like you said, Sarah, I think overall the writers have given me confidence that they'll pull it all together, and this will just be a blip along the road in the season.
All right. Well, that is it for us tonight. Jeff, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yep, they can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Lew_Jeffrey, and I'm also on Instagram, and my Instagram handle, and I actually did not prepare for this part, so I'm Lew Jeffrey as well, but no underscore, and And so yep, those are the main ways to find me.
Yeah, go check out his great banjo playing on Instagram.
And interesting story about the banjo playing. I kind of have a YouTube channel which I'm not updating anymore. I do like a lot of like parodies about like where I cover a song I make about like COVID-19 or social distancing or like making light of like everything. And there's one COVID-19 parody that I did that YouTube actually took down due to copyright infringement. I'm just kind of like, okay, the song is Desperado. If I'm changing Desperado to COVID-19, being great copyright infringement, but YouTube also said that if I get caught one more time, that like they're gonna suspend my channel. So it's like I should probably play by the rules for a bit and not really post too much on YouTube for the time being.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on tonight, Jeff.
My pleasure.
To talk about these shows with you. Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can always find me on Twitter at Will M. Polk, ILLMPOLK.
And you can find me on Twitter at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at SNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, but most importantly, rate, subscribe, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.